Perfect. All right, welcome everyone. We are thrilled that you are here today to learn more about our new hospitality and culinary arts careers, Culinary Foundations with the World Association of Master Chef Certification exam. We are really excited to dive into the exam to share more information about it, to also share with you how this exam was developed and how it can prepare your students for their future careers. So today you have a fabulous panel. We have Rebecca, who is a product manager who has helped with the development of the product. We have Jenna, who is a content manager who's helped develop the content of the exam and has helped with the QA process and to ensure that this exam is validating the skills that your students require to be successful. So before we dive in, I'm going to pass the mic over to Rebecca, who can dive more into what this new program is all about.
Great. Thank you very much, Dom. I'm happy to be here and excited to talk about our latest and greatest exam, something that's very near and dear to my heart. So let's dive in. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, the culinary arts and particularly hospitality is the largest retail sector in the world. It brings in over 700 billion in revenue, and there's a great starting wage. I will probably talk about this a little bit more later, but as we were identifying opportunities to grow the Certiport portfolio and to create more credentials for students and more ways to validate their skills, hospitality and culinary arts was at the top of our list, and I'm excited to dive into the sector and to chat a little bit more about why we decided to do this and how this can impact your students. So just to give you a little bit of background, so as part of this, we stood up a brand new program in Certiport. So it's Hospitality and Culinary Arts Careers, and we launched our very first exam, which is called Culinary Foundations with the World Association of Master Chefs. Just to pause there for a moment, the World Association of Master Chefs is an international organization. It's a network of professional chefs who are dedicated to challenging, innovating, and learning. And they have been so supportive and so excited about providing this credential to help students or young professionals enter into the workforce and have something that will help them stand out. And so one of our goals as we approach this exam is, what can we do to help students find jobs? And what do they need to know to make them stand out from the crowd? And so the food service industry, as we talked about, is huge. It's one of the biggest in the world. And we're excited that students or candidates who have this credential can help get their foot in the door and start their career paths in this cluster. So we're really excited about it. It targets a few job roles, and they're all different types of cooks. So restaurant, short order, line or station, prep cooks. We're helping those were the specific job roles that we targeted. And we've got Jenna on here who can talk more about that in a moment as well. And to give you just a bird's eye view overview of what this exam covers, our high level objectives are food storage, setup procedures, food safety and sanitation, kitchen environment, cooking methods and terminology, and cleanup. It was a lot of fun developing this exam and figuring out what does it need to cover. This is, the world is our oyster in terms of culinary arts and how we can drill down. And our subject matter experts and our content team did such a good job getting to the heart of what are the culinary foundations and how can we certify students. So thank you for walking through this, Dom. I just want to shout out one more thing, and that is our full pathway solutions. So this exam is live and in market and available for use now. If you are interested, we can get you demo vouchers, no problem. But the thing that we're also very excited about is it's also alive and well in the market with a practice test and with several curriculum options. So we've got Pearson textbooks that are aligned. We've got More Solutions has an awesome e-course that is developed and in market, and LearnKey is also working on one that is slated to come out in November. So we've got lots of options for teachers to implement this into their classes today, tomorrow, next year, whenever you're ready for it, we're ready for you. So that's kind of overview of the exam. Anything else you want me to hit on there, Dom?
That was perfect. Let's dive into the exam development and why it's here.
All right. Are we ready for me? Perfect. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dominique and Rebecca. And we have a few more questions just to guide everyone on the journey for this exam and what this has been like as we've been working on this exam and now have developed it and released it into the market. Rebecca, I wanted to come to you first and talk about why this exam was developed and how feedback from educators and industry pros played a role in what we decided to cover for the objective domains.
Great question. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So, I have been at Certiport for 18 months, and one of the first trade shows I went to, I had a teacher come up to me and ask me, "Do you have certification for culinary arts?" And that was kind of surprising to me because the Certiport portfolio, as most people know, is historically pretty IT heavy, right? Culinary arts is not a software or a program. And so that was exciting, and it was interesting feedback from teachers that I began hearing very early on. And this is a program and a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I actually attended back in the day a CTE high school and studied culinary arts. And so being able to come back full circle and be in the CTE ed tech space has been really interesting. And so when we started talking about ways we could expand the Certiport footprint and ways that we could help bring more certifications and opportunities to students, culinary arts was on the top of my list personally, and also with that feedback and information I'd received from educators. And so Jenna and I kind of put our heads together and said, who do we need to develop this exam? You know, what kind of people do we need? And I'm really proud of the task force of subject matter experts that we assembled of educators as well as working professionals. And one of the top questions that we asked them and that we had to hash out in these JTA conversations was, what do these students need to know to get hired? Because there are a million and one directions we can go, and there is every topic under the sun available in culinary arts, really. And so finding ways to, one, differentiate this exam from what's already in the market, like ServSafe or like state-specific health card requirements. How can we make this more than that? And how can we make this accessible and something that teachers already want? Because we have CTE objectives and curriculum across the country in the US. And so being able to look at what they were covering and what they, you know, the broader states had decided already people need to know, comparing that with what professionals felt like they needed to know, and having that conversation was a lot of fun. So that's a little bit of background. It's a great opportunity. This is huge cluster. And in our research, we estimated there are over 800,000 students who are in hospitality or culinary arts classes right now. And so lots of students already learning these things. And it's such a great opportunity to be able to provide a credential for them to validate it. And not just validate it, because, you know, there are other ways teachers can validate credentials, but validate in such a way that can mean something to somebody reading your resume who may never see your face, right? That they can say, hey, you know, you've got a certification and it's from Pearson or it's from Certiport. That's fantastic. And so, and it's endorsed by the World Association of Master Chefs. You know, that means something at a glance, which is sometimes the difference when, you know, you've got 4 kids applying for the same job to get their foot in the door for their dream career. So
yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Jenna, we're going to come to you next. In thinking about the development of the exam, obviously the content is meant to align with what industry is looking for. So how is this exam going to prepare learners for roles and jobs in the hospitality and culinary industries?
Great. That's a great question. And I think Rebecca covered kind of the basics of this. I wanted to go into a little more depth about how we develop the exams. So when we are developing exams, we start with a group of subject matter experts. And in particular, the group that we had has, you know, a combined over 100 years of experience in the industry and in teaching. So we felt like we had a really great group of subject matter experts when we were starting the process. And then Rebecca kind of touched on at the beginning of the process, we all meet together with those subject matter experts to discuss the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are required to get the certification. So we discuss and go through a long process of discussing, you know, what we want this certification to say about the candidates that receive it. And we come up with a minimally qualified candidate that we decide, this is the person who at the end, when they've received the certification, they're going to have this job role, which we talked about at the beginning. And then throughout the process of writing questions, reviewing the questions, completing, determining the passing score for the exam, we always keep in mind that minimally qualified candidate, or that person who at the end, when they have the certification, they're going to be able to take on this position in a kitchen. That after they have this certificate, we can say, yes, they have all of this knowledge, all of these skills and abilities that we have talked about and discussed all throughout the process of creating the exam.
So I wanted, in conjunction with that, and Rebecca touched on this briefly, that there's a lot of different credentialing options for people who want to go into the culinary world. So how do you think a certification like this one helps a candidate stand out to employers when they're looking for a job?
I think that this certificate in particular, because of the group of subject matter experts that we have, because of the rigorous process that we go through in, creating the exam, creating the objectives, and determining the skills that are necessary, we come up with really rich and innovative item types and questions that the candidates have to answer, and it covers a really broad spectrum of knowledge and information. So there's a lot of things that a candidate will have to know and will be learning through their classroom, through the practice and practical things that they've been learning, from their teachers and from their experiences in the classroom. They're going to have all that information and have all that practice in order to answer these questions. So it really, I think, helps the candidate to stand out, because we know we've been through this rigorous process. We've determined all of these things and all of these skills that are necessary to have this job role. And that certification is just this, check mark on their record of, yes, I know that this person knows all of these things because of this process that we've been through.
So in thinking about the exam, you've mentioned the item types and the different questions and content that's covered. What standards or frameworks? We obviously worked with subject matter experts, but were we working against industry standards in any way to ensure that it aligns with what people are looking for when they're hiring these types of employees?
So we did, I think Rebecca also mentioned this, so I'll just briefly go over again. There were a lot of state standards that we looked at, as well as like the ProStart standards and the World Skills standards we looked at to kind of inform us. We didn't copy anything necessarily by rote, but just we looked at all of those things to make sure we were covering as much information as possible from all of those standards.
I love that. And I think for me, when I think about the culinary world, a lot of it, of course, is very hands-on. It's something that a lot of people learn more on the job. So how did we make sure when we're developing this exam that it's not only about conceptual knowledge, but also those practical practical skills that students need to learn for success before they start in their field?
That was a tricky thing for us because, we don't have a practical element to the exam. And those innovative item types, I feel like those rich item types, it's not just multiple choice questions, there's lots of kind of practical skills translated into a question that, a candidate will have to come across, they'll have to have that practical knowledge that they learned in the classroom, that they have, practiced with their teacher, in order to answer these questions. So even though it's not, necessarily show us how you chop an onion, there are lots of really innovative, interesting items that they have to complete in order to receive the certification.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Rebecca, we're going to come back to you. I think one of the things that's interesting about this exam is that, of course, a lot of like food safety standards don't necessarily change, but what the industry is looking for kind of evolves and things like that over time. So what's the plan? How do we ensure that the exam maintains the rigor and relevance as time passes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Jenna, feel free to chime in here too if you have thoughts as well. But Certiport's goal across the portfolio is always to make sure that candidates are ready for the workforce. And so this is not unique to the Culinary Foundations exam. This is unique to this is also applicable to our Photoshop exam, to all of the exams that we offer. And so Jenna's team and the content team is really good about ensuring that they review the content of exams frequently and review customer feedback and review standards and keep things up to date. So it's always evolving, but we're always evolving with it. So
I
it's
love that,
exciting. But
Rebecca.
Jenna,
Awesome.
anything you want to add to that too? I know that's kind of your domain as well.
I would just reiterate what Rebecca said, is that, you know, we're constantly checking on the health of the exams. We're constantly making sure that we don't have items that are out of date, or, you know, if something has changed, we do frequently review these exams to make sure that we are keeping them up to date and that we are keeping them accurate, as well as just evolving with whatever, you know, the way the industry is evolving.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. Dom, I'm going to pass it back over to you, but I feel like we've gotten a really comprehensive view of the exam, and we're really excited about the potential in the marketplace. Anything else, Dom, that you want to share before we close out?
No, this was perfect. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to dive into the exam development. I think it's really helpful to see how it was developed and why it was developed, so that as teachers are implementing in their classroom, they can showcase to the students how it really will help prove that they have the skills needed to be successful in the workplace. So thank you all so much for your time. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to your Certiport representative, or reach out to us through customer support. We're happy to help, and we look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.